Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Christopher DeSantis channel. Today, I'm going to be doing a bit of a deep dive on a swimming form topic. Of course, everybody loves that word technique. I try actively not to use it, even though I just did. I actually recorded a version of this yesterday, and I'm back on Zoom because Riverside, my erstwhile new platform, has a software problem that caused a complete failure. So I recorded almost 30 minutes of this video and it's totally unrecoverable. So here we are on version number 2. You know, the blessing in disguise of getting to do these things a second time in a row is usually you do a little bit better job on the second take. And I think that'll be the case here. So um, I got a question in practice a couple days ago, and that's the inspiration for this video. I had a swimmer come up to me, like 2 minutes left in practice, and I'm basically always running out the door on a Monday because I got to get home. I have stuff to do at home. And so somebody's asking me sort of almost on my way out. And I'd never heard this question before. And it made me really curious. It sort of sent me on a journey. So hopefully you can come along on the journey and maybe we'll both learn something along the way. Um, so, and by the way, if you have an opinion on this topic, listen through. I'll tell you about it in just a second, but put a comment below, like this post, subscribe if you like content like this. And I'd love to hear from you because I've talked to a bunch of people in the interviewing days and especially coaches. And gosh, they got really passionate on this. And I'm starting to feel real passionate about it. So I'll finally get to it. A swimmer asks me, hey, coach, when you're doing a flip turn, do your heels touch the wall? And like I said, I thought initially I've learned at age 39 that when somebody asks you something and you honestly don't know the answer, it is okay to say, I have no idea. And so essentially that's what I said. I said, I've never thought about that. So I actually don't know. But I was curious. I wanted to start to learn. So I did a little survey again in my last few minutes walking out from the practice. And I said, just asked like 5 more swimmers. I said like, hey, when you do a flip turn, do your heels touch the wall? Unanimously, they told me, no, my heels do not touch the wall. And I went home, and as I am wont to do, I started thinking about it more and more. And I thought, I think your heels are supposed to touch the wall. So I went on a journey, and I started outside of the sport of swimming. I think is always important. Of course, cross sport comparisons are always imperfect, right? And I'll try to get into some of the limitations of these ones as I share them with you. At the same time, if you stay siloed in the sport of swimming, sometimes, you miss things that are out in the broader world of movement and athletics. And so I always want to start from the outside just to sort of check some stuff. And of course, there's always confirmation bias, and probably some of you are going to see that. And I definitely started out with the hypothesis that yes, your heels do touch. And so it's possible that I just sought out evidence that that was true, but I will show these things to the video, show you these videos in the order that I sought them out. And you can decide what you think. All right, so the first video that I pulled up was a legendary one. This is Michael Jordan at the 1998 NBA All-Star Game Slam Dunk Contest, doing his famous jump from the free throw line. And, I was just, basically free associated with somebody doing a big jump, because to me, that is the essence of the movement when you are pushing off a wall. You are trying to essentially, your body is submerged, and that's probably the imperfect part of this. Number one, but you're trying to do a big jump. Now, the other part of this that's imperfect is, and you'll see, and I think this plays into some of how Michael Jordan does it, is he's trying to jump forward instead of essentially straight up, which is what you're trying to do when you're coming off the ball. But I've slowed this down to quarter speed and turned off the sound so that nobody's tortured by horrible audio. And we're going to see what Michael Jordan does when he is trying to do one of the biggest jumps of biggest jumps. So you see him running up, heels, of course, planting the whole way. There is the footstep. There's something I captured the first time around with this that I want to get again. So athletic that at quarter speed, this is how fast he's moving. Okay, if you saw it right there, he actually made an exaggerated heel strike into the ground. So he landed very hard on his heels. And I think partially he's going to try to roll all the way through. You're going to see he's going to roll all the way through into an amazing position at the top of this jump. Look at that. Okay. So he's loading weight onto his leg so he can get the most explosive jump. Now, obviously, if you or I loaded in the same fashion as Michael Jordan, we would not jump from the free throw line and put a basketball through a hoop 10 feet up in the air. So this will vary from person to person. But to me, it's clear that in this instance, Jordan trying to get the most explosive jump, he is putting his heel into the surface he's trying to jump off of, because that allows him to get the best jump possible. Okay. So then I thought, right, as I said, one of the limitations of this is that he's jumping forward. So I wanted to find an athletic situation where people were doing a more similar movement on land to the one we see in swimming, i.e. trying to jump roughly straight up in the air. So where did my mind naturally go? Well, it went to high jump. So I present to you highest women's high jumps of the 21st century. And we're just going to watch this first one, this athlete from Spain, because there's a couple really interesting things I noticed watching this video. Again, quarter speed, no volume. Okay, just catching a little bit of her setting up to do it. And I didn't cue this one up totally perfectly. Like I said, I'm doing much better on the second attempt at doing this. So I will set up something that I noticed in watching her bound up. You know, you see these high jumpers, they kind of do like these, it's not a straight run, it's sort of a bounding motion before they go and make their attempt at the jump. She does something different with the foot she's going to eventually take off on versus the foot that she's not going to try to jump off of. So if you watch, I believe that's the left foot. I think that's the one she's going to take off of. She's very purposefully not landing on, so you see here she lands on her heel, other side. She's not striking on the heel. So she's keeping that heel lifted a little bit. I don't know exactly what's going on there. I'm not an expert enough in movement to tell you, but it was an interesting observation. You can make of it what you will. But let's see what she does when she finally comes up to make this jump. Here's the strike. You can see she's got her foot flat, okay? She's planting through there, extending, and jumping really, really, really high. Now, still, okay, we have two factors. She's on land, and she's not exactly jumping straight up, right? Even in the quote unquote high jump, which is ostensibly about jumping as high as you possibly can, you still have to clear this bar. And in order to clear this bar, you have to have some movement, some horizontal movement, okay? So after watching these two, I had felt satisfied that I had scratched my itch for watching people do this on land, and I thought, let's actually watch some people swimming wise. Let's see what people are doing in the swimming pool. And I went, I took it beyond the flip turn example, but I started with flip turns, and then I took a look at some open turns, and I'll just share with you what I saw. Everybody's favorite example, Caeleb Dressel doing a flip turn. Again, ostensibly we have this in the highest quality. It looks like an impressionist painting, but oh well. It is still, for me, quite clear to see what exactly is going on. So we have a Dressel coming in to do a turn on a 100 freestyle. Now, one of the things that I feel is worth explaining at this point, a very basic point, but not one that I think that is extremely well known within swimming, is Dressel is somebody who is quite well known for his, quote, underwater ability, or his ability off turns and starts. But that's really more of a function of how well and how athletically he first makes a start. So he starts at a really high speed, and how he pushes off a wall extremely well, because there's nobody that is generating additional speed, or nobody elite at least, that's generating additional speed based on what they're doing after they leave the wall. It's all about that starting speed that you start the wall at. So I have to imagine that Dressel is 99.99999 percentile in terms of the way he pushes off a wall. So I think he's a pretty good example of that. You can see him here at the top of the screen. Let's see a little bit what's going on in a flip turn. Oh, I didn't set it down to quarter speed. What was I thinking? Okay. So interestingly, you can see he actually lands on the balls of his feet. And if I go forward a frame, you see those heels come in. So one of the other things I forgot to mention earlier in terms of a flip turn is you have this, sort of feet over heels motion piece of it. So you're coming in to the wall, and it's kind of, you don't actually want to try to land on your heels, because you're going to be completely off balance, and your upper body's probably going to be angled down here. And you don't want to be pushing off, at such a steep angle. You want to be set up to push off essentially like a little bit under the water, but almost straight, right? So the balls of those feet come first, but the momentum of what you're doing, if you don't stop it, okay, actually allows your heels to come into the wall. And then the same springing motion you see as he extends through the legs, at the same time he extends through the heels, and that gets him that powerful push off the wall. It's very much similar. I'm going to do a little demonstration. If you can watch the piece of me in the corner of the video, like if you watch people doing an open turn on fly or breaststroke, often you'll see novice swimmers, and the thought process I think they're having is, I've got to get going in the opposite direction that I'm going right now. So keep their hands real stiff on the wall, because they think allowing momentum to come into the wall will actually make them slower coming off. That's not actually true. And I think in the same way, if somebody is actively trying to prevent their heels from touching the wall when they do a turn, and I don't know that that's what these swimmers are doing, I'm going to find out more. I'm going to show them this video, and we'll have a nice conversation about it. Okay. Then you'll be missing getting that sort of loading that potential energy to push off the wall. Now, what about an open turn? An open turn, you're not coming heels over your head. Your heels are coming underneath you. And again, it's kind of an awkward angle in terms of putting your heels on the wall. Well, now here's where I finally ran into a snag in this. But call it confirmation bias or not. I'll let you decide. You can tell me in the comments. Let's see. So I queued up this video of Sarah Sjöström setting a world record in Kazan in 2015 in the 100 butterfly. And shout out to Fina for putting these races on the internet, but chopping them up so it's hard to actually watch the full version of any of these races. Nevertheless, I digress. They actually give you an interesting angle for an open turn that you don't see in other places. And I watched plenty of other open turn videos where I felt pretty conclusively people were doing a similar thing where they brought in and touched with their balls, but then loaded into their heels before they exploded off the walls. But this is one where I saw pretty conclusively that didn't fully happen. And we get a nice angle that we don't typically get. See, so like it cuts from 9 seconds to 26 seconds of this race. Again, thank you, Fina. But anyway, I suppose I should be happy that it's getting to the part that I want. You can see she's not keeping her arms stiff. She is allowing some of that to load into the wall. And then we get a good view. There's the top ball of her feet, whatever you want to call it, getting onto the wall. The heels do load a little bit, but I don't think that they come into contact with the wall before she pushes off. Okay, but it is, on the other hand, also very close. Here's my other counterpoint. Sjöström touches first, as you can see in the helpful graphic up here. Sjöström touches first, and she's just a bit ahead of Ottesen from Denmark, and then they're going to push off the wall. Now watch here in a second. This is Ottesen. This is Sjöström. Okay. I don't know what Ottesen did, although I've watched her do a number of turns. I feel pretty confident. She's loading into her heels off of it. She gained a huge advantage off the push off. Okay. Now she doesn't quite nail the breakout. That was in comparison to her peers, always a relative weakness in her swimming. So she doesn't translate this advantage, but we have a pretty good camera angle, one that should actually, I think we're a little bit ahead of the two of them. So it should, in my opinion, I think it should make them look closer to each other than they are. But she's gained like maybe a half a body length here off the push off. Okay. So I'm not sure. And again, imperfect, you can't isolate one variable, but I'm not sure Sjöström actually has the best push off. And she's certainly not going to break out in the lead. You can see Ottesen's head is ahead. Of course, she goes on to swim much faster for the rest of the race, and therefore she breaks the world record. So anyway, really interesting conversation around this stuff. I'd be really interested to hear what you said. I had plenty of friends who I got into healthy arguments with about this yesterday, colleagues, etc. But leave your feedback below. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me if you ever thought about this before. If you go like, Chris, how can you have never thought about that? I welcome all feedback. Thanks you everybody for listening. If you want more content like this, I've got some really great content on starts that's been quite viewed here on YouTube. So I'll link to that below. And otherwise, if you guys want to follow just for pure positive psychology based content, you can follow me on Instagram, Christy_coach, Facebook, Chris DeSantis Coaching. Again, if you like this content, like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.